Oh my God, it's another Denver after dark. I like to welcome all of you to this special evening. And if everybody's noticing my left eye, you should. When you do get abducted by an alien, I'm like, why did they probe me in the eye? I mean, what the hell happened here? Actually, I got stung by a bee by when I was clearing brush. I'm out there tonight, or just a little bit earlier, and I'm clearing brush. My wife is there with her. We have our four-wheeler, our Polaris out there. And I moved this old log, and I look at my wife and look back, and I'm going to throw the log, and a bee comes in like it's supersonic speed. I hear the buzz like zzz, and hits me in the eye. I fall backwards. I trip over a log, and I'm laying there like a turtle on my back, screaming into the night. I'm kidding. I wasn't really screaming that much, but I definitely had a bee hit me right in the eye. And then I thought, man, bees don't like me. So it's hard to explain to everybody here what it's like to be old and in the woods and trip over a log after getting hit by a torpedo bee, and then trying to get up and you're stumbling and falling and there's leaves everywhere. You're grabbing your eye and you're telling your wife, call 911. Anyway, it was crazy. So I'm waiting for, people to get on, and I've had quite a day. I have this incredible working relationship with the people who help me. Researchers, hello, Robin from East Tennessee. That's awesome. I love East Tennessee. Just to let everybody know, I have a lot of relatives who lived in Dandridge, Tennessee. I could talk all day, Knoxville. So anyway, I have this incredible working relationship with Doug, who's my producer, and we bounce these ideas off us all the time. And as we're seeing our numbers grow, we're like, man, we're like the anti-Art Bell. And I was talking to Doug. I said, we are the anti-Art Bell, but I want to be exciting. No facts, reality, data can be very exciting. You can find things like, RICO statutes. Instead of conspiracy theories, actually criminal conspiracies. I can track the Oath Keepers texting the Giuliani family. That never came out really in the news, did it? If you guys go look up an NBC, one reporter caught that in my book, The Breach. By the way, I have it here. It's an accident. The only book on J6, except for the report, and the best one. But people didn't know, the Oath Keepers were texting Rudy Giuliani, and that data is exciting. That kind of stuff is exciting. But I was talking to Doug about this anti-Art Bell stuff, and you guys can find it on NBC. Again, there was only one that reported it out of the book, which I actually thought that would break the whole case open. But we also found out my phone records were never open. 5 million hard pages, as you guys know. But Doug goes, what's more exciting than believing in Bigfoot? I'm like, I don't know. It's pretty exciting. He's like, talking to people who believe in Bigfoot. He goes, what's more exciting than believing in UFOs? I said, what, Doug? He goes, talking to people who believe in UFOs. And by the way, that is actually absolutely true. I got accused today of making fun of UFO believers, I guess space monster believers, because I hadn't met with experiencers. And I want to tell everybody who's listening to me right now, I've met more experiencers than about anybody on Earth. I have been in haunted houses. I have talked to psychics. I have talked to mediums. I've talked to 4 or 5. If you talk about the subcategories, probably 10 different types of Bigfoot believers. I've talked to alien abductees. I've talked to people who said that alien abductions are actually based on family lineage. I have talked to interdimensional being believers. I have talked to Smokefoot believers. Smokefoot. You guys do know that if you have enough smoke in the woods and there's a dimensional portal, the Bigfoot likes to stick his head through it. Look around. Because for some reason, he wants a big snort of cigarette smoke or cigar smoke. What's interesting is pot smoke seems to create a lot more of these Smokefoots than anybody else or anything else I've heard. So we have all this going on. So now that we have enough people on, after 4.5 minutes, I got a story for you. So I was in the military. I actually left the military in 2003 at the National Security Agency. Yes, the National Security Agency. So you know this story. It's going to be chock full of deep state and globalist conspiracy theories. So anyhow, I had this good friend of mine who was a former Marine officer, and he retired at quite a high level. We were working in the same office together. We were actually looking at intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance assets globally. which means I was doing some pretty top secret stuff, much more secret than David Grush, the UFO believer. Anyway, so I was doing some incredibly secret stuff. Well, this guy had heard, because I told the stories in the office about my Bigfoot expeditions and the people that I met. And it was about 2004 to 2007 where I was formulating this book about Bigfoot believers. And you guys know, called Bigfoot is Complicated, because the people I were talking to sort of hated each other. There were Bigfoot believers. There was something called Bigfoot forums, which I still think existed. But back in 2004, 2005, 2006, they had the weirdest stories on there. Most of the things on Bigfoot forums were always talking about mating habits and genitalia and is there cross mating and stuff like that? And there's a reason I'm talking about that, because this is part of tonight and the congressmen and congresswomen who believe all this. So anyhow, I'm talking in the office. I'm sort of laughing about it. I'm like, I have this guy who believes that Bigfoot is equivalent, that it's an interdimensional being, right? That can come through these portals, and that's why you can never kill him. Now, I didn't know that about a book called The Voyagers by Ashiani Dion, right? And in The Voyagers, you had all these different types of alien types, like the Branu, the Anunnaki, the Dracos, and the Quaventalur. The Quaventalur, right, was sort of this scout who was trying to help the good aliens or the good interdimensional beings fight the bad interdimensional beings in the 5 harmonic universes that were trying to take over our dimension. Yes, that sounds a little nutty, but that's what they believed. I didn't know it then. And you know who I learned it from? The Marine colonel. Yeah. So he goes, well, Denver, it's true. I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah, all right. Now you got to remember, guys, I'm 55 now. Then I was 35 to 37. You think I was brash now? You think I'm brash now? Yeah, I was a little arrogant then, a little bit of an ass. So I'm sort of making fun of it. He goes, well, how about this? He goes, usually go home, right, on Thursday nights all the way back. I lived in West Virginia, 192-mile drive back and forth. So he goes, why don't you stay the night tonight? In the morning, we'll discuss, tonight, tomorrow, I'll educate you on what Bigfoot actually is. So I go to his house, stay the night, get up in the morning, had one of the most bizarre things. I don't even want to go into it because it was a bizarre morning. But I was sort of eating breakfast by myself in the dark. I had found some cereal and some skim milk, and I'm like, where is this guy? And he comes down like at 10 a.m. I'm like, my God, I thought you were a Marine. So anyhow, but there's a lot more to the story, and that's probably another show. So he comes down and he goes, Denver, it's time to talk. And he said, I know your house is haunted. I said, you do? He goes, yes. I said, how? He said, Bigfoot told me. I said, explain to me this Quaventalur, this interdimensional Bigfoot. And he goes, it hovers over my bed. And when it talks to me, right, it telepathically talks to me. I said, does it know all the languages of the world? Now, that's an asshole question. That's called Stump the Dummy, right? He goes, well, it speaks a universal language. It's feelings and lights and certain types of words that all of us understand. But like sacre bleu, I don't know. How many words do we all understand? So he goes, Bigfoot told me you have a spirit in your daughter's bedroom. I'm like, okay, this is getting a little bit nutty. And he said, but Bigfoot comes to me often. It's how I make my decisions for my career and things of that nature. So I had one more question. I know everybody here is dying to hear what my last question was, because I was enthralled. I read the book Voyagers. I know about the CDD plates. I know about Kalantic science, right? I know about the harmonic universes. I know we're in a 260 million plus year war between the harmonic universes with people like the Dracos, reptilians, trying to take over, the world. And I said, hey, he floats over your bed like horizontal. And I'm doing this. He goes, yeah. I said, is it male? Like, that's awkward. I mean, that's really awkward. I mean, Bigfoots are naked, so, I mean, what's going on here? Like, this is a little nutty. So why would I talk about my Marine friend who believed that the Quaventalur was giving him prophecies, which I found out was much more prevalent because this interdimensional being thing is so huge. And I was looking at the David Grush, Russ Coulthart interview earlier today, and he was also talking about that maybe they're not aliens, maybe they're from other experiences, other dimensions is what he was talking about, which is, utter complete bullshit. And so, I wanted to talk about some of the things that are happening today, but I need to talk about something else that's going on that interlinks with this. And it's exactly right, Tim. It is like Scientology meets the $6 Million Man meets X-Files. As you know, Bigfoot did fight a space alien. Bigfoot, come on now. Let's go. You guys want to come at me? Come at me. So anyhow, you can't, like nobody can. Like I am a absolute encyclopedia of batshit crazy conspiracy theories and nuttery and the interdependencies of them, Tim. So anyhow, you guys do know that the Bigfoot could actually come from the Nephilim. The Nephilim, I believe, or is it the Nephilim? I don't know if that's the French. I don't know how Bigfoot would say it in his universal language. But here's the thing. The Nephilim, they come from, right? They were actually, it looks like they were offspring of fallen angels with women. A little nutty, but they said it's in the Bible, So I think we might have some pictures of them. Doug, I don't know. Do we have a little screenshot of the
Nephilim and the gods of the old world? UFOs and alien abduction. Transhumanism and artificial intelligence. Wars and rumors of wars are all converging at the end of the age in fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Join me and other engaging speakers in beautiful Bozeman, Montana for an epic event like no other. NEFCON 2025. What began on Hermon ends at Armageddon.
What the fudge? I mean, and we have congressmen at that event. That was in June 2025, and we had one congressman we know of, Eric Burleson, was there. But it doesn't mean, and God bless everybody here, but that Tim Burchett, right, Anna Paulina Luna, all the way up to J.D. Vance, everybody on the UAP task force in Congress. Listen, if you're on it, I don't care who you are. I'm going to make fun of you mercilessly if you're on a UAP task force or caucus.
Some say I'm a lucky grifter. Some say.
So anyhow, as Doug surprises me with his inserts. Oh, we're not talking about alien probes yet. So anyhow, craziness. So when I found out that we had a congressman going to this Nephilim conference, or NEFCON, in Bozeman, Montana, with a bunch of grifters paying premium tickets to see a congressman speak about this, we also know that Eric Burleson is a bit of a believer in angels, and also wants to get to the bottom of things, also believes that there's 4 different UFO species, which if you read the Voyagers or any of the Voyagers, there's a lot more than that. 4. I can name that off the top of my head. You know what I mean? So 4, there's a lot more than 4. Liars. I mean, who's keeping these classified records? There's at least 100. I mean, God. So, again, people making policy. So I'm thinking about this and this belief from people making policy and these sort of interleaved, interdimensional angels, UFOs type of ridiculousness. And I know I've warned before about these crazy belief systems, but I have to make a confession. I've also had some experiences. I'm also a bit of an experiencer. So it's hard to come to grips with this. And but I wanted to share a little bit because I was wearing a GoPro when I was actually abducted. And I shared that with Doug, and he said I had to share it with the world. Doug, could you please share what happened to me? What the fudge? As you can see, I'm just like Whitney Strieber, and that I danced with the aliens, although he danced naked. If you watch the movie Communion, it's based on a book called Communion, which me and Doug also are big fans of stupidity on a level that is almost hard to define. But the here's the it is the universal language. So the issue that I'm having and what I'm talking about with everybody here is that I almost want to play it again. Doug, I mean, should we play it again for everybody? I don't know. Is this overdoing it? Can we just play this for the rest of the show? I think for the next 20 minutes we should play it. If you get it up, just cut me off if you want to play it anytime. Just surprise us, as I'm talking, and then we'll just go right to it because I know you can mute me anytime you want. You guys are like, Denver, why the stories? And a lot of times I try to make it a little bit fun because it's so insane. I do dance with those aliens. If you go and watch the interview with Russ Coldhart and Whitney Strieber, and it talks about things that are so beyond the pale. And when you look at the congressional representatives who believe this, I'm telling you that any type of belief like this is indicative of the larger problem of delusion-based policymaking. And it's something that I think you need to bring up with friends, is that if people are making policy that believe this, but they're also making policy, and I'm not trying to go against Christianity or other religions, but if your policy is based on a supernatural voice being, sort of injected straight into your frontal lobe, I don't think I want those people doing that. I had that issue. And I will even tell you this with the new crypto bill that came up, and this is something that I need to tell everybody. I know 100% why the crypto bill had such a tough time passing. Now, I'm against the crypto bill, and I know why they had to keep changing the language. Would you guys like to know why that the Republicans had to keep changing the language on the crypto bill, right? And maneuvering and manipulating the language in such a way to get it passed through the Freedom Caucus. Are you guys ready for this? I hope you're ready. I hope you can guess. They thought that the language was actually the mark of the beast and was polluted by demonology and Satanism. True story. We are in very dangerous times. Very dangerous times. And if we have people who believe that communion is real, we have reporters that if we have reporters humoring this kind of ridiculousness, and they're interviewing congressional representatives or elected representatives or in the executive branch or even the legislative branch or the judicial branch, if these people believe it and they're humoring them and talking to it about them, it's actually spreading this filth, this disease, this disinformation, this propaganda, this superstition, this fantasy, right? This religious belief that aliens, angels, interdimensional beings, Nephilim, all that is all related in some kind of a plasma world, right? And it's giving you something. It's giving you prophecy. It's telling what you have to do, right? And you think about, what Pete Hegseth just retweeted from a Christian nationalist church that he goes to, that there should be household voting. Women shouldn't vote because of religion, because of a supernatural voice, because that's what they think. And it's ludicrous. And looking at these people sitting down, that those very people that are talking about that women shouldn't have the right to vote, right? That crypto is the mark of the beast and satanic, that we should be writing all of our laws based on the Bible, which is the guy I ran against. He thought that. And this was a guy who even thought that condoms were against the word of God. And I'm like, I didn't know life began at erection. Is that where we're at now? So, these are all the things that we have going on, as we're going forward. And that's why I do Denver After Dark. And that's why I wanted to grow. Listen, I'm not going to give you guys hyperbole and specific idiotic things or try to get you fired up, with weird, thumbnails and stuff like that. Doug and I just aren't into it. I think what's happening in the world right now is weird enough. We don't have to make anything up. Let me say that again. We don't have to make anything up. What you're seeing is what you're seeing. Believe your eyes, believe your ears. This is facts-based stuff. That's what's happening. The facts-based stuff is that fantasy and delusion, conspiracy theories, lies, grifting, all that has completely overtaken the American experience. And we have an autocratic, authoritarian way of looking things based on manipulating the ignorant in massive ways. And if you're watching Ancient Apocalypse or you're watching Ancient Aliens and you believe it's true, you're part of the problem. And I know that's hard. I know it's hard. You might have your best friend might love Ancient Aliens. Or my pet peeve, Skinwalker Ranch. Maybe the dumbest show ever made, except for Expedition Bigfoot, as I've said before. Where do we go from here? I think where we go from here is we have this existential fight in front of us for facts, right? This existential battle for truth. Not your truth or his truth or her truth or Heaven's Gate's truth or Jim Jones's truth, right? Or Donald Trump's truth. It's our real, facts-based, data-driven truth. There has to be a truth or we're in really big trouble. Lastly, so my Marine friend comes over to my house and he has this really bizarre mix of things that he brings with him based on what Bigfoot had told him. If you guys remember the story at the beginning with the Marines, I know some people have joined a little bit later, but I have a Marine friend who believed interdimensional Bigfoot would hover naked over his bed and give him prophecies through telepathic universal language love. So when he said that there was something in my house, he comes over. I invite him to dinner. My wife humors that, even though she thought I was frankly insane to invite this guy over to our house, and he has dinner with us and our daughters. So he brings a figurine, one of the saints, Catholic saints, and he buries it in my yard. Then he comes up into the house. We have chili that night, I remember, with some excellent sweet cornbread. And he said, we need to go up to your daughter's room. And we went up to our room. I knew it was possessed because the room was actually clean. It had never been cleaned before. It's a joke. So we go into my 12 years old room and we get in a circle and we're holding hands. And he actually calls on Bigfoot, the Quaventulor, that interdimensional being, that big hirsute love muffin from Harmonic Universe 2, to come in and get rid of the spirit and send it home. And that's what happened, as far as I know. So we're sitting in the circle, and it's just bizarre. I still like the guy, but I didn't want to go to any parties with him anymore. I mean, listen, I love talking to people. You can bring me anything. I will talk to you about anything. Hell, I won't even be judgmental. I really wasn't then. But it gets to a point where belief systems can overwhelm even somebody who appreciates different types of belief systems, because it gets in the way of real conversation and the ability to see the world as it is. And if there's anything that I want to do, and there's anything I want to impart to everybody, is see the world for how it is. Don't see the world for the way you want it to be. And it's just not going to happen. And what happens is what you have with 77 million people who voted for Trump. And let's just be honest, it's very difficult for me to get my arms around anybody who is so fantastically, or how about this, who's so truth challenged and facts challenged that they still think that Donald Trump isn't a sexual abuser. Or they still think that Donald Trump's not a felon. Or they still think that the election in 2020 was stolen. Or they forget about Trump University. Or they forget about his years and years of relationships with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Or they see what he's doing right now with going after universities, going after judges, going after politicians, threatening to arrest everybody, putting RFK Jr. in charge, putting Tulsi Gabbard in charge, putting Pete Hegseth in charge. What do we do? So, another Denver After Dark. I try to keep them fairly short. I don't know if Doug has any questions he wants me to ask of anybody that's out there. If you want to pop one up, you can. You don't have to. You never do. This is not a show with pressure. This is a show where we want to talk about the bad things that actually happen. But we actually want to put a spin on it so you can fight. That fight has to be in facts. So my Marine friend, he goes on his own merry way. So it was that year, in 2006, I decided to do my own expedition in the Adirondacks. And it was because of him that I did it. So I did multiple expeditions, and it was when ESPN Outdoors got with me, and we did our own expedition with ESPN. They actually went and started doing ghost hunting with ESPN Outdoors. And people can look this up. I know it's older. Some of it might have disappeared. This is between 2006, 2008 with a ESPN writer named Don Barone. It was then I got my first death threats. My first death threats came from a website called BigfootExterminators.com, where we put up recipes of how to make Bigfoot into a delightful meal. We had Bigfoot kebabs, we had Bigfoot steaks, we had all this kind of stuff. And it was then also that I realized that belief systems could be deadly. It went from the benign to, oh my goodness, just because that I came up with a delicious Bigfoot chili, I got death threats. Because at that time, we were on Bigfoot forums and all that kind of stuff. So here's what I asked everybody to do tonight. Go look up Bigfoot forums and read it. If you want to, and I am not telling you guys to do this because I'm selling anything, because Bigfoot is complicated. It's been out for a while now, but it is on audiobook with actually Bigfoot sounds. It's cheap as hell. I wish I could gift it to everybody. But if you look at that, look at all the stuff that I found on Bigfoot forums, you'll be shocked. I think you also got to go look at the UFO forums and the alien forums. Look at X. Look at Blue Sky. Look at what's going on there. X has like UAP James and all these people that are just reposting this stuff, and Shadow of Ezra and all that kind of stuff. People being blinded by stupidity. So anyhow, would I ask you guys again? Go out there, do great work, and I'm here for you. And I just did another Denver After Dark a couple days ago. I'm going to be here every Sunday night, guys. I'm going to try, whether I'm in London, whether I'm in UAE, whether I'm in Poland, whether I'm Ukraine. And is Trump going to sell Alaska back to Russia? Kidding, sort of. Good question. No, I don't think so. I think that Trump brought him to Alaska because Putin didn't want to fly very far. And what's interesting, I just heard that the meeting is in Sarah Palin's backyard. No? I thought it was pretty good. How do I think this Epstein saga will end, Denver? Okay. Thank you, Tony, for the question. Here's how it's going to end. There will be nothing released of any consequence on Epstein. They will try to make it go away. They're going to completely flood the zone with crap, right, in order to try to get everybody's attention away from Epstein. That's why you're seeing all the things happening now. You're seeing the Alaska, but the Census Bureau, those conspiracy theories are going to be huge. They're going to try to get a lot of voters tossed out, because the best way to actually steal the 2026 election is through disenfranchisement. So it's pretty interesting that you asked that question. I appreciate it, because that's what all this is about, guys. It's about 2026. This is about getting people weirded out, disenfranchising voters, lying to them, scaring them, forcing them into superstitious belief systems where they vote on fear and terror rather than facts and data, and trying to make sure that 2028 is set up for whoever MAGA wants. Now, you see the trolling going on with Trump right now with the 2028 hats. I really do think it's going to be a Vance Rubio ticket. I think that's what they're going to push. But I do think once Trump starts to diminish more and more mentally, I think you're going to see more internal civil strife within MAGA. But as far as Epstein's concerned, we have to keep it out there. All of us, we can't, for the next 3 years, we have got to hammer that this guy's protecting a pedophile. That's what we have to do. That's how the Epstein saga is going to end. I think it's going to end by us continuing to have it out there. Good question, Heraclitus. Even if Trump was in the Epstein files, would that be enough to break the spell for the cult? No, not for the baseline believers. They will never do that, because the globalists and the deep state have actually set this up. And as you guys know, the other conspiracy theory is Biden Obama planted Trump's name in the files. I don't know why, if that's the truth, they got to redact the names that were planted in the files. So, that's pretty interesting. Just another common sense Denver, sledgehammer moment. But I do think, I have to say, I want to go back to this very quickly because these questions are great. I do think the Epstein thing is what really helps, the sane to win these elections. I think the midterms could be a route. If we can make sure that democracy is protected and people can vote and the conspiracy theories don't consume, I think the Epstein thing, I think the Democrats, I think they own the House by between 17 and 25 seats going into 2026. That's my prediction. You heard it here first on Denver After Dark. That's a great question, Donna. Could you go back to Congress if given the opportunity? Just 6 months ago, I told somebody on that question, I'd rather self-immolate, right? I'd rather set myself on fire. But as I see things happening right now, I think I'm better suited probably for an executive position. Being one of 435, in the House side, one of 535, really, if you count the Senate. But, I would probably maybe run for Senate again on the Congress side, or run for Senate. I've been asked to. I've been asked to run for everything from POTUS down to Congress. The Democrats asked me to run for Congress. I had a secret group of Republicans who came to me and said, Denver, would you consider running for governor or lieutenant governor of Virginia? I had another third party reach out about president. I've had a lot of people reaching out. And what I asked the people who reached out for president, I asked them if everybody else said no. They said, that's correct. I said, okay, of course. But, with Congress and with executive positions in the state, I'm in a pretty good position. I think I probably would run for Congress again. But it's just really difficult because I just think I think your voice is sort of lost there. And I think as an executive position, I think I'd have a lot more ability to influence which way, the winds are shifting. Because I think if I'm elected to the executive, I'd be trying to give more power to the legislative branch, give it back where it belongs. But again, a lot of people aren't wired that way. They're wired to take as much power as they can. So I have to think about it. It's a great question. I wonder if I can do more from the outside, but I'm not quite sure how that will work. But I have a feeling that the abduction video you just saw might have just stopped any chance of me running again. I teach high school social studies. Thank you. This is Mr. Shear. I teach high school social studies, including a media literacy class as a semester elective. I have 3 weeks I can spend on misinformation, conspiracy theories. What do you think I should focus on? Well, I think you should start with the protocols of the Elders of Zion and track what's in that document all the way to today and look at the threading in that document. I also think once you get to the satanic panic, which is really part of this sort of historic way of looking at things, the satanic panic is the baseline for everything you're seeing today through QAnon, which I think is one of the most fascinating things to teach. It's sort of the conspiracy sticky bomb of all conspiracy theories, where everything just glommed onto it. It's like the Leviathan movie, it has everything, right? Satanic panic, global pedophilia, New World Order. It's like a herpes of ridiculousness. So I think that's where you should start. But also the 9/11 conspiracy theories, I think 9/11 truthers, flat earthers, I think all that goes back to this deep state globalist belief system, which started with the protocols. So I hope that helps. And if you have any questions, you can actually, I think, Doug, we have an email, right? Isn't it like Denver After Dark? I don't know what I don't know if it's Denver@denverafterdark.com, but it might be info. But I'm not quite sure, but we actually have a Denver After Dark email. I don't watch me screw something up if I try to go to it right now. It's a Gmail. Yep. So it's at gmail.com. So, oh yeah. Okay. So it's probably is it denverafterdark@gmail.com? Is that what it is, Doug? Yes. Okay. So it's denverafterdark@gmail.com. Email me. I'll try to get back to you. As you guys know, I'm pretty, responsive. So thank you guys for another incredible episode. And I know that we're going to go out with something that Doug's very excited to go out on. I don't know if you have it queued up again, Doug, but guys, I want you all to have a very good night. And I hope that the abduction video I showed you is forever seared in your conscience. Thank you very much. Denver's out. I'll see you guys this week and next Sunday night.